I'm Savannah Dunn with the Dunn Realty Group, and today I have a special guest with me, Crystal Johnson from our team. She is my partner listing agent, and we're going to go over some of the important things. First of all, just whether you should lease or list, which is the premise of the show, but also avoiding costly mistakes. Really quick before we start, what would be what you think the number one thing most sellers do that is the most expensive mistake they make, just to kick the show off, right off the top of your head? The worst mistake sellers make.
Probably over improving a home
Okay.
and then expecting to get the highest ROI for things that buyers don't necessarily care about.
That's fair. And ROI in this instance is return on investment.
Yes.
They think that it's a dollar for dollar or a multiplier of dollar, and it's not always the case. And they usually want to reflect that in price. And then we come and sit down and we have to have the hard conversation of, wow, this price isn't quite going to be the one that's going to move the market, because markets are always shifting and changing. So today we want to kind of figure out what is a good question for homeowners to ask themselves when it comes to leasing or listing. A lot of times we're looking at time frame, like how soon do they need to list? How soon do they need to lease? What's their end goal? What are some of the other questions you like to ask sellers, whether they should try to decide between the two?
I like to ask what's your current payoff and your rate, and kind of weighing that against what could you actually rent it for? Does that even make sense?
Yeah, is it going to cash flow?
Do you have the cash flow to handle that on top of repairs that might come up or things like that a tenant would flag?
Or the vacancy.
So, buffer time for that.
Yes. Okay, so kind of seeing where they are. Obviously, the longer someone's been in a home, the more likely that they could be a good candidate for leasing out a property because they've got that equity in there. But also it could be a really good nest egg to move on to the next property. So a lot of times I think realtors get a bad rap that we're always just in it to sell the house and get the most money and make the commissions and not actually educate and consult with our clients. And I think one of the things we do really well on the team is we bring up both conversations to see if it makes sense. Tell me more about those expensive upgrades that you're seeing right now in the market that are really just hurting the sellers. I think it's certain renovations.
Yeah.
They like over renovate or personalize it too much.
Yes. Like doing a complete kitchen cosmetic upgrade or update that just isn't, it's very tasteful to you.
Yes.
And something that you find value in. But a buyer isn't going to necessarily care, and they might want to do something completely different. So they're calculating that in their head versus like obviously adding a room or a bathroom or square footage or things like that. That really does add value to a house in most cases.
Right.
But I would say like the customization piece is something that we deal with.
And that's why we like to walk through the house and tour it first when we sit down, because we can start to pick up on how emotionally tied they are to their upgrades.
Oh, yes.
We get very specific, like this is a blah, 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 blah. It's a very detailed update. And then a lot of times we'll see that the upgrade maybe isn't as recent as they think it is.
Yes. Redoing a toilet 5 years ago does not guarantee
it's a maintenance thing at that point. Yes, it has to be maintenance. Like, so we have to educate and in a way that it's tastefully done, in a way that doesn't hurt any feelings. But a lot of times these are the things we come across. So we're kind of stripping it down today, like behind the scenes, what are we really thinking and seeing when we're walking into these houses, so that we can really educate homeowners, because a lot of them are afraid to lease out, but sometimes they've just recently purchased the property. They don't have enough equity. And I had this happen recently where it was like, well, is it better to lose $30,000 on closing day or maybe lose $14,000 over the next year? That was the conversation. It was like, well, maybe lose the $14,000. We can stomach that over 12 months versus having to come out of pocket $30,000 to make it get to the closing table. We're having a lot more of those conversations right now, for sure.
And lifestyle factors. Think about, do you have time are you going to have a property management company that helps you, or are you going to try to do all of this yourself? And that is its own I would say line for a cost.
Yes.
To either your mental peace or your pocketbook.
Yes. Sometimes leasing's not a safe option. They default to renting because they just think, well, I can just put it on Zillow or whatever, or Facebook Marketplace and bring someone in. And they don't realize just the safety options that you run into with the tenant selections. First, you have to do fair housing.
Yes.
Second of all, scammers. Like, you've been experiencing a lot of this when we list because we list them on there to attract buyers. Tell me a little more about the Facebook Marketplace.
I'll just get on one day and I'll have a notification that Jim F. from wherever has shared my listing for our house, and it'll be like, I'm selling this as, and I'm like, you don't own this house. You're not the agent. Like, who are you?
Yep.
So I can't even imagine the people who would inquire if you're an owner listing it for sale, and then you have to vet them and make sure that they're a good candidate.
Yes.
You know, Texas's tenant laws, and like, you really need to know what you're doing if you're going to do that.
And if you're putting it up there for sale by owner or for lease by owner, and 17 other people are copycatting that, and you don't even know it, you all of a sudden have a whole bunch of unwanted traffic to your house. That can be
it's a security issue.
It is a security issue. So a lot of times people don't realize that. We've talked about this in past episodes, the turnover of tenants, the replacing of the carpets, the flooring, the paint, all that. So a lot of times if they don't calculate all those costs, it may not be smart to lease it out. So previous episodes have talked about that. So what we want to talk a little bit more today is what's the listing procedure kind of look like for us.
I love our listing procedure.
I know it.
We do. We've honestly refined it so well that I feel
so many steps.
Yes, but it's great. And everybody feels informed.
It is. And we have a lot of different phases, from the pre-listing prep and the appointment all the way to the photo and marketing day to actually going live and coming soon. And then even when it's active on the market, there's so much marketing that goes into it. But one of the things that kills me is a lot of homeowners think marketing is everything, and it really comes down to your price first. And if we don't have a good product to market, we're not getting any buyers in the door. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a shift that we've gone through in this market. Like, this is the first time in years that you get to negotiate with a seller, not only on your list price, but also concessions. Like, so many buyers don't realize that's out there. So as a seller, we have to really get ahead of it because we don't want to chase the market. So some of the things that we love to do is get the difference between, the condition of the home and the marketability of the home. Condition are things you can control to a certain extent, depending on your budget. Some of the things that we look for condition off the top of your head, what are we looking for?
Appliance and system ages, quality of how things have been maintained, like is the baseboards looking good, are they all broken up, things like that. Has your dog
eaten them all to death,
things
scratched
like that.
The windows,
and that's stuff that you can kind of maintain as you go pretty simply, depending on the budget.
It's just like the sealing and caulking, all the and it just the things that look like wear and tear in a house, which are a lot of times a honey-do list.
Yes.
And on a long weekend at Home Depot, and you can add so much value to your house if you just a little elbow grease, or you get a handyman, if you really want to. A deep cleaning goes
so far.
If everyone would and a lot of times they need to clean twice almost.
Yes.
They need to clean when we prep the house for sale, and then they need to clean it one more time before they move out, because once you've moved all that furniture around and moved out, it looks not clean anymore.
And don't forget the oven.
The cupboards, the feedback we get is so like, why are we digging in cupboards when we're showing for a house? But, that's what some buyers want to do that. Some of the cosmetic things that can be updated, deep clean carpets, huge. Sometimes you can deep clean them really well before having to replace them if they aren't too old. And then there's sometimes we just see a carpet and we're like, this has got to this has got to go. And it's probably one of the cheaper flooring updates you can do if you wanted to. But I think deferred maintenance is the number one killer of value on any house. Yeah. And it's not just the list that we send out, like the seasonal maintenance lists we send out. It's a little bit more than that, right?
It's something that's not too bad if you do it as you go, but if you have to do it all at once, it feels like a really heavy hit.
It's so overwhelming. And that's usually what our checklist
we're dealing
is.
With. Yes.
So it's anything from light bulbs all being the same color
It makes a big difference.
Replaced.
It makes a big difference.
Including the fluorescents. If you have fluorescents, maybe upgrade them to an LED bar because they look much better. Windows, those are tough, really tough. Broken seals, we always hear about them. You talk to any true window company, replacing glass isn't going to fix the problem, but it might temporarily help out. It's a little bit cheaper than getting full windows. But if you can spring the bill for a full window replacement, that helps us get ROI on the house. What else? Cracks in tile.
Yes.
Shows horrible. It freaks people out for a foundation, which it may not always be a foundation issue. It's just old, and it happens. You might have dropped something on the tile and cracked it.
Some landscaping or like cleaning patios or just keeping things looking orderly too. I'd say is kind of a big one.
Landscaping is huge. It's curb appeal, but it could be as simple as taking every weed out and putting mulch down.
Yep. And that's usually all we recommend too.
Yes.
We don't really say to do much else.
Especially because half the time it seems to be really hot and no plants are going to survive
anyways.
If you put them in for a weekend.
Exactly.
Maybe a potted plant. But otherwise, it's going to not make it through Monday.
Yeah.
So just put the mulch down and call it a day.
Yes.
Edge your beds and mow. So many times sellers don't want to keep mowing their yards.
Yes.
That has
we
to,
get it, but
that has to be done.
Have to mow.
Picking up after your dogs. That's always the big one. You don't want people to show in the yard and not be able to walk out in the yard because you have dogs. Even just pressure washing your stone on your house. There's so many times we see like the moldy, black, dirty stone and it just doesn't shine well. It looks like no one has taken care of the house.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to look for deferred maintenance, because they think they get all the things, and then I look at the vents on the ceiling.
You always do that, yes.
And I can tell whether you clean your house or not based on the vents. You might do a real quick clean before we show up, but if I see your vents, I know you did a really quick clean before we showed up.
And that's another thing we have in our listing process is like some home inspection before those are done, like some items you can do to kind of make the house stand out and look a little better too, which is nice.
And because it's going to get called out regardless. So we might as well get ahead of it where you can maybe do it yourself, because once it gets called out in inspection, we have to have the professional come. You can't just switch because how many times have they said, oh, you need to switch out the filters?
Yeah, and that's it.
Technically, we're supposed to have an HVAC person come do the filters per the contract. No one really gets too upset about it, but the fact that it got called out in the first place is just one less thing we have to worry about.
But then that usually also turns into like a tune-up conversation. They want a tune-up now, so it's buyers usually triple, like we always say, triple the cost that they think something is going to cost, and that's 100%. What our seller usually ends up paying.
Yeah.
So
and even sellers kind of think the same thing. That's why they don't do it. And then it doesn't cost much to get a quote half the time. You can get a quote usually for free. You can get multiple quotes, put them all together and go, okay, let's do this one. But we had a recent listing that expired. We put it back on market. We had them deep clean the carpets, paint all the bedrooms, and stain the fence.
Yeah.
And it sat on market for 8 months and a really high, and we adjusted the price. No, we kept it. We kept the same price that they had adjusted down to.
We staged.
And we staged it, yes, which that
was the magic.
Yes, that's always the magic. But I mean, that was a good, $10,000 investment between all of those? 7 to 10,000, but it sold in 2 months in the winter.
Compared to previously had
9 months on the market.
Forever.
Yes. But price was the first problem because it was way, way overpriced. They had finally corrected it to the price, which we didn't have to adjust.
Yeah.
But it needed those other things because buyers are so emotionally torn to which house they're going to pick. It's how they feel when they walk in, and it's how they feel when they leave the house.
Yeah.
And if they walk in and they're, oh, it's so beautiful, but then they walk around and they start to see little, windows here and that there and flooring here, and then they leave, they go, ugh.
And the hard thing, not to toot our own horn too much, but
that's what this show is for.
Okay, great. If they had hired us from the beginning, obviously they didn't know us, it's not their fault. But if they'd hired us from the beginning, we have so much attention to detail that they would have been able to sell within that higher peak time period.
Yes.
For maybe a little bit higher, who knows? But obviously we worked with what we had at the time and it worked out great. But that's always something that people underestimate is the agent they pick and their process. We've refined it so well. I honestly just love it so much. So,
well, it's funny. You see all the memes about how you'll go and scrutinize all these other purchases, check all these reviews on Amazon, but you're going to pick the cheapest agent.
Oh, yes. You pay for it somewhere. That's my motto.
Yes.
You're going to pay for it somewhere.
You're going to pay for it one way or the other. When life hits hard, late payments, medical bills, job loss, or even the need to move quickly, many homeowners feel trapped. The fastest way out seems to be selling to a cash investor, but that means giving your home away for pennies on the dollar. You don't have to do that. Nearly half of homeowners today are equity rich, and that value belongs to you. With our One Move program, you can unlock that equity immediately, get cash in hand now, and still share in the upside when your home resells. Or, if you'd rather, we'll shop your property to multiple cash buyers so you can choose the best offer instead of settling for one low bid. Go to donedealoffers.com and discover the smarter way to get cash fast without losing the equity you've worked so hard to build.
To those who take the risk, who bet their life savings, their blood, sweat, and tears on a rental property to make a nice place for someone to live and a nice living for themselves. To those who get this call or no call at all. To those who keep adding more properties, it will all be worth it for you and for them. You care about preserving your investments. So do we. Real Property Management.
Let's talk about pricing strategy. Why does overpricing a house hurt so much more? And even compared to just waiting a little bit longer. Like they're like, well, we don't have to sell right now, so let's start high. Because by the time it gets to when we do want to sell, we'll be at our price. That's the philosophy, right? Why does it not turn into that?
So many reasons, but what I usually see too is like when I do these appointments, that's typically what most people hit me with first. It's like, well, we'll just start there and then we can always change it. My rebuttal is always you get one shot at a good first impression.
Yep.
And your online listing is your first showing.
Yep.
So if someone's not really inclined based on whether it's condition, price, whatever it is, to come see your home in person or send it to their friend that's looking or whatever, it's not going to result in a serious buyer for a serious sale.
Right.
And so that's great. If you don't want to sell and you're not really in a rush to, then maybe you should just wait it out a little bit longer until you actually are ready.
Don't list it.
Yeah, until you are ready. But I would say kind of that's what I see
how many
most.
times do we meet with somebody and they think they're ready and then we find out they're not, and it takes them 2-3 months just to get ready anyways.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I think there's a weird spot where homeowners are like, well, I'm not ready to talk to the agent yet because I'm not going to go on the market in the next 2 weeks. It's like, it doesn't happen that fast. It shouldn't happen that fast. If you're going on the market that fast, you're missing a lot of pieces because there's so many things that should be done to pre-market a house that you really should get 3 to 4 weeks out, if not 6 weeks out. So it's never too early to talk to us, for one.
I just had an appointment where they're like, hey, this might be too soon for me to be reaching out. I was like, no, like even if it's 2 years from now, I know that sounds crazy, but I'm like, that sounds so much better than rushing through it.
Well, we can match with the buyer maybe along the way. Maybe we find someone who's like, I want to buy this, this, and this. And it's like, oh, you know what? We have someone who's interested in selling. We can match make them all day long.
Exactly.
But if they sit on the market, days on market is the killer. That kills any buyer urgency. When the days on market start creeping up, they're not going to be more urgent to put their offer in. They're not going to be more urgent to show it. They're like, oh, it'll be there next weekend. It'll be there. Or let's wait till the next price adjustment comes down.
Yeah.
They're just waiting because buyers don't have a lot of urgency right now either. And it's this weird poker game. And the only one losing is the listing sitting on the market.
That's the only one
and
losing.
We can only bluff so much about how much activity we have when someone lowballs the offer, even though it might be priced right. And so it hurts not only the homeowner, but it hurts us as agents because we can't do our job.
And I always tell you, when I talk to the sellers about it, I'm like, my job is negotiating for you, getting you the highest I can in a respectful way, putting the offers against each other to get you the best terms and price. But I can't do that if I don't have anything to work with.
And if it's just been dead, they're not going to believe. And we can't lie to other agents.
No.
We're ethically bound to be honest to everybody.
I'm not going to lie to anybody, but yeah,
but we have clients that are like, well, can't you just say X, Y, Z? And it's like, no, we can't. We cannot. We are ethically, our license is at stake if we lie to other parties, especially co-agents. Like, we cannot lie to them.
And take that to the side. Even if I did and they get discouraged, because like, oh, well, you already have something, we'll just move on. It's like, okay, awesome. That didn't work out how I was expecting.
Oh, God, I love it. Because everybody's burned from the COVID days and the multiple offer days. They don't really want to compete with other offers. And they don't really want to overpay for a property. No buyer wants to overpay. They want to get their value in. So the first, 2 to 3 weeks right now are the most important to have the best price. And if you're not adjusting price within those first 2 to 3 weeks, because sometimes we're not fortune tellers. We don't know if the price is going to hit or not. We're just going off past market data. Yeah. Everybody doesn't want to leave money on the table, but you're going to leave money on the table if you start too high, for sure. Because usually we see right now, currently, anybody who overprices and closes, they're getting 92% of list to sales price ratio. Mm-hmm. And I think that's off the most recent price, not your starting price. The way the stats are, it's like you're not even getting 100% of your price adjustment. Versus if you price it right, you're getting like 98%. Mm-hmm. So who just wants to burn up 2%, 3%, 5% of your equity because you're testing something?
And you have to think of your carryover costs.
Yep.
What's your mortgage payment, your utilities, like all that has to keep going.
Yes. So yeah, it's required for inspections. Yeah. Like you can't just shut it all down. It has to keep going. Okay. So cost of waiting. Some people just want to wait another year. Mm-hmm. There is a cost to that because you may miss an opportunity of another house that you could potentially purchase if you're looking to move up. The market could get even worse, which we have seen the past couple of years. We just don't know. You never know. So and it's your sanity. Like, is it really worth, if there's a lot of times if someone's moving, it's because they need to right now in the current market. So is it really worth staying in that same situation for another year? Any other insights on waiting?
I think it depends. I always tell people, make the market fit into your life. What are your goals for you? Obviously, the numbers do need to make sense also, and we kind of weigh that. But I would say if you are just ready to buy a house, even if the rates are a little bit higher, you're paying rent somewhere anyways. Right. You're paying maybe $2,500 for an apartment when, you can do the math and see if it'd be feasible for you to purchase instead and then refinance at a later date. That's kind of what I usually tell people. And same thing for sellers. Like if you need to move on to your next chapter, you had another kid, you're out of space, like at a certain point you need to do what's best for your family and then make it work.
Well, we have sometimes like they can't afford to continue living in their house. Maybe their buy down has ended and now they're back up to the normal rate they weren't anticipating and they didn't get the job they thought they would get that would cover the costs over time. Like there's so many, we're seeing a lot of that start to show up because there were so many 3-2-1 buy downs in 2020 and 2021. They're starting, if not, they might have refinanced or done something, but you start to feel that pinch where maybe the lifestyle is more important than the house. And they're realizing maybe they invested too much in the house and they need to adjust. Job relocations, like can you really wait another year? You really can't. So we're seeing some sellers bring money to the table to close, but it's worth it to them to move on. But it's smart to have the conversation. I think so many times sellers do their online value.
There's estimate. Yep. Then they know.
And even we send out online values, but they're not accurate. Texas is a non-disclosure state.
Yeah.
We tell people just watch it to see if it's going up or going down. The number is going to change, but the trend, you're watching if the trend is going up or going down. And if you see it going up and you're like, oh, maybe I want to do something with this money. Maybe I want to get a HELOC. Maybe I want to, I don't know, renovate, do anything. Yeah. Have the conversation so you know how much money it is. The worst is when we get somebody who's already spent the money somewhere.
Yes.
And that money never existed.
Yes.
And a refi appraisal is always going to be higher than your market appraisal.
Yes. Yep. Explaining these differences to people is always fun.
There's just so many nuances to it that and everyone's situation is so different that they really should have the conversation with us. I think that's what this whole podcast is about, is like, how do we lower the barrier? How do we start the kitchen table sooner and go, okay, what do you really need? What do you really want to do? What are your goals? Yeah. How do we help you find the right path? Because does everyone need to go through our full listing procedure. They don't have to do all the bells and whistles. If we're going to price it right and we get good pictures of it and we can get to market, that thing will sell quick. But if someone wants to get the most out of their budget and the most out of their equity, we got to check all the boxes.
Yeah. And I always tell people too, my friends who have purchased or family that's purchased with me here, I'm like, even if you're not ready to sell it, if you're thinking about doing a renovation, but you want to know what would make the most sense, just call me. It's like, even though you're not using me right now, use me as a resource.
Right.
That's what I'm here for. And then obviously when you get to that place later on, we'll have given the advice that was needed to make it the best outcome later.
Yeah, we're not cringing and going, I wish you would have called us 5 years ago when you did this kitchen, because it was actually on the turn of the renovation. And it's like people who were still doing grayish everything and we've moved into beiges, and it's like, no.
Yes. Like, let me keep you with the trends.
Like, don't go too trendy, but a little time. And there's certain things you can change with interior design. Like, your big, heavy, expensive thing should always be some sort of timeless color, style, whatever. And then your smaller accessories, go crazy.
Go crazy. Get whatever. Coral? You want coral? Do coral.
You paint your walls that. It takes 2 seconds to paint
fix it back.
But don't make your floors coral. Don't make your appliances coral. Like, don't, the big heavy things that are the biggest weight.
Yes.
Keep those as timeless as you can. And then let the rest just kind of be your own flair. But then don't be mad when we come to your house and say, we got to change it all to this.
Yeah, we're changing it all back.
And that's okay. It's totally okay. So any final takes, I guess, between maybe someone who's thinking, should I lease it out or should I list it? Like, any final thoughts beyond that?
I kind of generally think if you look around on Zillow and just see what other things around you are going for as a rental, we also can pull the rental comps just to show this is kind of what these are renting for. And if it's, a lot more than your monthly payment, it might make sense for you if you're not looking to use your equity in the home to upgrade to a bigger house. Or there are instances where it makes sense. But if you're wanting to have more of that conversation to see if you are wanting to upgrade and sell it to do so, I think that's a good time for us to come sit and meet with them and really help advise you based on your goals. And it's hard for us to do it with half a story.
It is. And it's the same conversation that our buyers agents have with the buyers. Like, is this your forever home? If you don't think you're going to stay here forever, let's not buy the best home in the neighborhood and let's turn it into a rental later. And so we're already helping them purchase their future rental.
With that in mind.
Yes. Yeah. And then sometimes the area pops off and it's actually like, you know what? You should probably sell this because it's going to do way better as a sale than it would. It's always changing.
Yeah.
We don't know what new development's coming in. I mean, we know kind of, but then they show up. You're like, oh, this is changing the whole landscape. We don't have the crystal ball up there to figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
So, any other final things on why should someone work with us to sell their house?
First of all, we're so fun. We are a package deal, which I love.
We are.
So you get 2 brains for the price of 1. I really, truly believe, I've worked on a bunch of teams. I've worked at a bunch of different brokerages. I think we have the best listing and buying, but I mainly do listing system of anyone. We offer so much value, frankly, for free up front until obviously closing. And it's worked time and time again. We have so many people who've been really happy with it. And I like to say that you're the boss as the client, but we are in the driver's seat so you can focus on your kids and your job and you're not stressing about running to the house to pick up your mail. Like, we help you out a lot too. And that's something a lot of agents don't have the bandwidth of a team and systems to do.
It's a concierge kind of service that we offer.
It's white glove.
It is very white glove because we couldn't do any less than white glove. So, well, we'd love to work with anybody who's thinking about selling their home or potentially leasing it out, because we will partner with Glynn, who's my other half of the show. We love working with Glynn. Like, we've done a couple deals with them, and people are so happy working with him as well. So love to have both sides of the coin on this show, but I am so glad we got to talk a little bit more about listings today. If you guys have any questions, you can find us online, and we'll put all those links in the show notes. And thanks again for being with us today, Crystal.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.